Swahili or Bathi or anything, please give it up right now. Keep it going. Start clapping your hands right now. I got one of my best friends in the world. He's an amazing performer. He's a very wonderful surrealist comedian. He's a great friend and a very, very sweetheart. Please get up to Mr. Adam Dahl, everybody. Give up for Adam Dahl!
Hey, you know what I mean? I do. Give it up for Jimmy Newsteader and Nathan Brannon. Always doing a great job. I think some people are too dedicated to their jobs, like firefighters. Did you know that a firefighter's body is 80% water? That's taking things a little too far. It's like, oh, there's a kink in the hose? Well, you know what that means. Suicide pour, everybody. I like to start out with a hacky premise and then I build from there. That's liquid courage. Have you ever been so drunk that you find yourself peeing on a fire hydrant, and for a split second you're afraid a Dalmatian is going to come out of nowhere and kick your ass? Because you've called those spots. That's your... The point is, some people are too dedicated to their jobs. Like, I used to work at an ice cream store. I never even once thought about becoming 80% ice cream, right? But, you know, some people eat dogs, which I never understood. Until a really hot day when I was craving an Oreo Blizzard, I saw this Dalmatian and I was like, I could eat 100, maybe 101 of those things. Anyway, you have to be careful with fire. Like one time, my aunt burnt me with a magnifying glass. And I was like, ow, that's not funny. She's like, it just depends on your perspective. Relatives are weird. So I happen to be a smoker. I hate the people that do that smoking thing to you. They come up and they do that fake cough. I hate that. Because, like, if I were lost on a deserted island with one of these people, and they came up and they were like, you know, I built a fire, right? A fire. To make a smoke signal. With nothing but, like, a magnifying glass, and then this guy's like, excuse me. I need to do this to survive. You should be thanking me. If they don't save us, I might have to eat you. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. But it's very difficult to quit smoking. I've tried several times, but I'm just so... I just look so fucking awesome. When I'm outside, a couple girls pass me by, I can be like... Cool, right? Maybe not. But if I didn't smoke, it'd look even worse like this. Hey! So I'm not very good at conversation. Otherwise, I'd quit. But everyone always one-ups me in a conversation. No matter how hard I try, they always top whatever I just said. Like, I had this girlfriend that asked me to say something beautiful to her, so I said, "There's the quiet terror that suffuses my senses when vast hazes of gold wash earthward from star-heavy skies on silent nights." And she said, "I meant about me, you fucking pussy moron." So, I don't, where do you go from there? Hey, does this ever happen to you? You're just walking down the street, and all of a sudden you find yourself pretending to be a spy. Like, not in an obvious way. You wouldn't want to blow your cover or anything. But in your own mind, you are now a spy, and you're just trying to play it cool on your covert mission to the local Circle K or something. And every once in a while you stop and you pretend to window shop just to make sure nobody's trailing you. You know, you're like, yeah, that's a nice It's nice. Dress? It's not my color. It's not my color. So you move on. Finally get to the store. You go inside, you take a beverage out of the cooler. You put it in a different location. It's a signal. Something. And you go outside and you buy a newspaper out of the machine. You put an envelope inside. You put it back inside. And you step back next to the payphone. Pretend to have a suspicious conversation. Yes, the dolphins are in the jacuzzi. I repeat, the dolphins are in the jacuzzi. And then somebody tries to buy that paper. And you're like, wait, it's not that one. And you step back and you turn around and your ex-girlfriend is standing there, watching you. And she's like, Jesus, Adam. What are you gonna... I can't believe I ever even... And so you part ways and you feel bad about yourself and you take one last look back and there she is crouched behind a fire hydrant with a pair of binoculars. By the way, don't you think binoculars must seem obnoxiously romantic to a cyclops? Because it'd be like seeing a double-seated bicycle. A couple of dogs sharing spaghetti or something. Dog eat dog. I think the point is that I'm not very good at communicating. A friend of mine suggested that we communicate only by carrier pigeon, which I thought was a cool idea, you know? Hip. But the problem was, he would never return any of my messages, so I had to keep buying all these birds all the time. And then I remembered he's a magician. I'm buying all his birds for him. Asshole. But if I were ever to murder someone, I often think, where would I hide the body? I would hide it in an abstract cement sculpture. And then people would come into the gallery and be like, yeah. They'd be like, I just don't get it. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going for. But if they could see inside, they'd be even more pissed off, because I'd be pretty angry if I was stranded on a deserted island and a bottle washed on shore with a little ship inside. It's like, oh, real funny. Thanks for making me feel a little bit more like a jackass. Thanks, guys. But you know, I think ignorance is bliss, because if you're ignorant, then you don't know that you'd be unhappy if you knew you didn't know that what you knew about not knowing about it. It felt good for a bit, didn't it? So I think that proves my point. Ignorance is fun. Like one time I saw a bush that was on fire, and I thought, that must be God. And so I walked over there. I was like, hey, why are you hurting that bush? And the fire was like, I'm not hurting it. I'm just showing it that I can. This firefighter shows up and he sprays down the bush, and I was like, hey, I was talking to that. It's like, what, are you kidding? That was gonna spread. Yeah, you're probably right. Good call, good call. So maybe it's bad. Maybe ignorance is bad. I don't know. But what do I know? I don't have very high expectations for myself. Even when I was young, like, some people have dream jobs. They want to be a firefighter or a policeman. I just wanted to be a grave digger, you know, shoot low. But just a grave digger for cremations. You know, when people scatter ashes? Because that's an easy job. You just go out on a canoe with a shovel, splash some water around. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, it's ready now. But death is unpredictable. Like one time, my phone was ringing and ringing, and I answered, and I was like, that was 138 rings, this better be important. And it was a tree. It was just fallen in the forest. I was like, oh, that's awful, how old were you? He's like, what are you, a fucking idiot? And he hung up on me. that joke, I'll explain it with another joke. One time I saw a magician guess a woman's age in a crowd, and I thought that was real impressive, until I remembered that earlier, he'd sawed her in half, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. But that's why death is so unpredictable. Like one time, my phone was ringing and ringing, and I answered it. I was like, that was 138 rings. This better be important. And it was a tree, of all things. That had just fallen in the forest. And I was like, oh, that's awful. How old were you? And he's like, what are you, a fucking idiot? And then he hung up on me. If you didn't get that joke, I'll explain it with yet another joke. One time, I saw a magician guess a woman's age in a crowd, and I thought that was real impressive, until I remembered that earlier, he'd sawed her in half, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. But that's why death is so unpredictable. Like, what? Okay, I won't submit you to that. Sometimes I have to police myself. You know, I don't think cops eat donuts as much as we think they do. It's a prejudice we have. It's not the reality, because if it were true, donut shops would actually be going out of business. Because cops would be shaking down donut shops all the time. You know, they're corrupt bastards. Fuck cops. I live out in Beaverton, and the dildo shops are going out of business. That's something to keep an eye on. I know women are cops too, but not in Beaverton. They're just lazy male donut-eating cops. They're eating so many donuts, they're using dildos to stack donuts. To create a more efficient use of space. I know, it sounded like it was going to be a homosexual joke, but it's really just a psychopathic Jeffrey Dahmer type of joke. You know, the lines between their sexuality and the need for sustenance have become blurred. It's just a good thing that the donuts don't know what's going on, because it'd be like waking up from the Matrix, just ringed columns as far as the eye can see. A couple donuts wake up. Is this the true reality? I don't know. It still looks like ones and zeros to me. Yeah, I see what you mean. It's like we're fucked no matter what. I think I'm gonna go back inside the column. The food tastes better. Silent green is people. I was talking to a psychologist, and he said you shouldn't use the term psychopath. It's not a clinical term anymore. It's outdated. I was like, well, what about cuckoo or whack job? You know? Right? He's like, well, we use those terms in private, but in intellectual circles, you just look like a dick. I do a lot of circle jokes in my act, and some people are like, oh, fucking circle comic. Just another fucking circle comic. Talking about circles, fuck him. But it reminds me of a time that I was shrooming with a friend of mine in his living room. I was shrooming, yeah. Give it up for shrooming, yeah. I was shrooming with a friend of mine, and he turns to me all of a sudden, and he goes, why is everything rectangles? The picture frames, the cabinets, the bookcases, it's all rectangles. Even a doorway. A door is just a passageway from one space to another. Why make that a rectangle? And I was like, I guess you just find something that works and then repeat the shit out of it. So anyway, I went to this therapist. I went to a therapist, and he told me I was too self-absorbed. Just because I said that when I die, I want to be buried in a huge Russian doll of myself. You know the kind? You take off the top, it's me. You take off the top, it's me. Me. That doesn't make me full of myself. I was just trying to make it fun for other people. to discover me. So maybe he's onto something. I make a lot of mistakes and do a lot of stupid things, and then I blame myself, which is the part that I like the least. So I thought, every time I have to make a decision, I'm just gonna flip a coin. That way, I'm not responsible. It's fate. It's chance. So I'm outside, and this guy asked me directions to Stark Street. So I take out a quarter. Yeah, it's about 5 blocks that way. He goes, wait a second. What's all that coin flipping business about? Were you gonna tell me it was the other way if it landed on tails? And I go, hold on. Nope. And then he looks at me like he doesn't trust me, right? And the only other guy around is this homeless guy that's walking past, and he goes, you look like you know the streets. Which way is Stark? And the homeless guy is like, well, I'll tell you. But do you have a quarter? One time I played a game of spin the bottle with 2 guys and 2 girls. So there were 3 guys. And I was like, does this make me gay? Because every time it would land on a girl, but I was willing to take the chance. Have you ever pictured yourself in a cockpit inside your own mind? And you put it on automatic pilot so that you can drink martinis and hit on the stewardess. But you get too drunk and you pass out and you wake up and you realize that your plane has just kissed a guy. Fucking automatic pilot. Have you ever played Twister and your face winds up right next to some girl's nanner? And you're like, this would be really inappropriate if you hadn't have spun that, right? Because, you can't just go up to a girl at a party. No matter how hard you want to go down on a girl, you can't just walk up to one and be like, hey, where are you from? Southern California? Oh, yeah? Yeah, I hear that it's really nice down there. I was thinking about going down. What am I doing? I thought I saw a quarter, but it wasn't. It was just a gubble gum wrapper. I mean, a bubble gum bap. But apparently you have to be a lot more subtle than that. She looked really angry, to the point where I was like, you're not gonna kill me, are you? And she's like, I don't know. Takes out a quarter. Better start digging your own grave. And I'm like, oh, grave digger, that's my... It didn't help. Besides wanting to be a grave digger, I've also always wanted to open my own store. I want to sell pizza by the slice inside a revolving door. Like an airport or library, state prison or something. And people would come into my store, and I go, what can I do you for? And they'd say, nothing. Yeah, well, no loitering. Get out of my store. Yeah, gladly, I was planning on it. Okay, tell it walking, pal, You wouldn't even have to sell good pizza. If you throw up, it's not our pizza. You were just dizzy. Bad customer service? I was with you for like 5 seconds. But people are just too quick to judge. That's the problem. Everybody's too quick to judge. Like, I was on a date recently, and this girl asked me one of those questions that they always ask, like, if you were any animal, what kind of animal would you be? I was like, I would be a sloth. Because I don't think sloths are slow. I think everything else is fast to them, so it's like time-lapse photography. You're climbing up a tree, everything's growing around you. This little caterpillar comes down, spins a cocoon, bursts out, and you're like, fuck, that's cool. Like half of the forest is gone all of a sudden. There's a big skyscraper. You're like, Jesus Christ. And then moss starts growing on your arm, and to everybody else in the animal kingdom, you're just like for 3 days trying to clean your arm, like. And then I looked up and my date had finished her slice of pizza and she was gone. It's like, how did she decide so quickly that she didn't like me? Very decisive. People say I'm too indecisive, which I never thought was true because from my maybe they're right. But from my experience, from what I've observed over time, you never know about those things. Here's something to think about. Where does one thing end and the next thing begin? So anyway, moving on. Why do there seem to be very few women ventriloquists? But at the same time, there seem to be a lot of women willing to stuff a turkey. It's odd to me. Here's a suggestion for all the guys in the audience. Guys, never masturbate when you're taking a bath, because in that case, where one thing ends, something just off. Transitions can be awkward. Any bridge between two things can be very strange. Like, I found the end of the rainbow the other day. I'd been searching for it my entire life. There it was, the end of the rainbow. But there's no gold in that pot. There was just a note that said, wrong end. Have you ever been so high that you light the wrong end of your cigarette and gold pours out of it? I hate that. You just can't grasp it. But you know what else I hate? You know what gets my goat? I hate it when you're on an airplane and your pilot doesn't realize that he can make a right on red. It's like, doesn't he know how that works? Like, fucking just... And I shouldn't yell at him, but I have kind of a split personality. You know, I have problems of my own. I always feel bad after I masturbate because when I do it, it's not consensual. I feel terrible. I want to lock myself up. Then I'd be punishing the victim. I think these are the kinds of thoughts that led to the straitjacket. I can't be sure. What is insanity? Is it a smile on an old man's forehead? Or is it a furrowy brow beneath a young child's nose? We can't be sure, but we do know this. Those are both people you don't want giving you the Heimlich maneuver. Because when it really counts, there are certain people you just can't trust to be reasonable. You know? Like, I was walking through the park the other day, and this guy jumps out from behind a bush in a trench coat and flashes me. And I'm like, look, people might not run away from you all the time if maybe you also sold watches or something. It's just a suggestion. But maybe that's a bad idea, because every time somebody tries to sell me a watch in the park, I can be like, that's an incredibly nice, oh shit, I'm really late, sorry. It's like the perfect excuse, right? You ever have somebody lie to you and you're insulted? Not because they lied, but because it was just so obvious. Like, really, I'm supposed to believe that? Like, I bought a Ouija board, asked it a question, and it spelt out, sorry, I'm illiterate. You don't want to talk. That's fine. Some people are just too afraid of offending someone else. Like, personally, I found out I was a racist the other day. Anybody with me on that one? I found out I was a racist because I can picture a giraffe speaking English or French or Spanish, but not Russian. That's too harsh for a giraffe. Giraffe's supposed to wear a beret. Or a top hat with a vest that has a pocket watch. Giraffe's not supposed to be sitting around sipping vodka, chain smoking with a big furry hat. That'd be absurd. Kind of racist. But the thing you have to ask yourself about giraffes is, why do they need camouflage? Is that fooling anyone? Because a giraffe, it's just carrying around a flag like, hey, it's giraffes over here. We're proud of it. Sometimes I like to slip in cult symbols into my hat. Did you guys know that all deaf people are in the Illuminati? I saw it on YouTube, it's real. Maybe giraffes are just delusional. I think they're some kind of ferocious predator like a leopard or a cheetah. You know, you see a giraffe nibbling at some trees, a couple other giraffes hanging back. Like, see Jared over there? Fucking tree didn't even see him coming. Fucking tree didn't even see him coming. Thank God we have this camouflage. And then there's another giraffe in the pack that just has a single spot, or it's got a solid color, and they all shun him because they're afraid he's going to scare them. Enough about giraffes. I lost you on that one. I had this roommate in college, and every time St. Patrick's Day would roll around, he'd be like, I'm Black Irish. I'm Black Irish. And he was real proud of that. And I was like, it must be really nice to just have one giant freckle. Freckle. Which I thought was innocent, but apparently it's very racist. One time I had to flee the stage, actually, because there was this Russian giraffe in the audience. With a scowl on his face. But back to the subject of obvious lies. I bought a chameleon, and I thought it'd be really cool to watch it change colors and everything, but mine wouldn't change colors at all. It was just very deceptive. I'd say, like, hey, chameleon, and he'd go, you must be mistaken, sir, I'm just a rock. Come again? Yeah, I'm just a weird-shaped rock. Well, wait a second, rocks can't talk to people. He's like, well, neither can chameleons. Maybe you're hallucinating. Make a good point, Rock. Sometimes you lie to yourself, you know? Sometimes you hide things from yourself, and that's not always bad. Like, if I were to ever win the lottery, I'd build a mansion with secret passageways to secret rooms that even I didn't know about. So I'd be surprised whenever I found them. You know, you lean on a statue, pull the spine of a book, you're like, oh fuck, I didn't know I had a bowling alley. Oh shit, I didn't know I had a sauna. You know, turn a candelabrum. Oh shit, I didn't know I had 12 carpenters still living in my house. Bowling. Toweling their balls. But you know, Jesus was a carpenter. Why do people always say that like it's something you never heard before? Like, he was a carpenter. I don't care if he built model railroads, I don't see the connection. But here's something you don't know about Jesus. There's another witness at the crucifixion that nobody ever seems to talk about, and it was a very educated bilingual giraffe that whispered into Jesus' ear when he was on the cross. He taught him how to spell in English, but he only had time to teach him how to spell, sorry, I'm illiterate. He's been confusing the hell out of Ouija board players ever since. By the way, an applause break is the perfect time to picture yourself riding a griffin. But anyway, people say, alright, that's fine. People say if they could go back in time, they'd watch Christ get crucified, or the pyramids get built like ants building an ant farm, or an ant hill, rather. A little loopy tonight. By the way, I bought an ant farm, and I put all the ants inside an hourglass just to see how long it would take them to build their farm. But whenever I tried to time it, Sometimes I don't plan ahead very well. But if I could go back in time, to any time, I'd go back to right before Albert Einstein became famous, and I'd send his ass to the present, so we'd swap. Now I have to live Albert Einstein's boring life, but you can make it fun. I would take all of his theories and documents and burn the edges, make them look real old. And then I'd put them in clay jars, bury them in Egypt, and then pretend to discover them. And scientists and anthropologists of all kinds would come from all over each other. But I wouldn't stick around for any of the questioning. I'd just step into my hot air balloon and drift away to the horizon. Be an enigma. And then there'd be this guy in the future, Al, trying to convince his friends that he had come up with all those theories. That happened before you were even born. Fucking Einstein. I always wanted to fuck over Einstein. He never gets any shit. I like pranks, I guess is what I'm saying. I used to like to redirect people at libraries with catalog cards. You could take out a catalog card, retype it, put it back in with a different location. So someone looking up a book on ovarian cancer would be redirected to green eggs and ham. I like messing with people. I like to leave glitter atop the blades of a ceiling fan when I leave a hotel room. I like pushing people's buttons, you know? I like to go into an elevator with a stranger, maybe a businessman, and accidentally drop a bar of soap. And I'm like, no, I got this. How far are you going down? It's like the two most uncomfortable situations. This may be a little bit off topic, but if you take acid, right? If you take acid and jump off a balcony, you'll be fine. As long as you picture yourself riding a griffin. There's other people. I just didn't know about the griffin thing, that's all. Just hop on the griffin's back with your chameleon and meet up with me in my hot air balloon. Of course, there are dangers to hallucinogens. It has to be with the right people, the right time, the right, you know. One time I had a vision that I was in a dark cave surrounded by nothingness except for a tiny frog that had a little crown on its head. But every time I tried to pick up that prince frog, it would slip out of my hands. And then I remembered I was just in an elevator. So there are dangers. But I think the drug laws are too tough, you know? Like, to me, a naked man covering himself with a wooden barrel should not automatically be considered a stowaway. Because it doesn't necessarily imply the intent to distribute. It could just be his personal stash. Plus, the drug laws just make everything more violent, and I think we can all agree that the world is a violent enough place, right? No, more violence? Let's do more. They say that video games make you more violent, and I never thought that was true until I remembered that when video games first came out, switchblades were really popular. And with a switchblade, you don't have to do that stabbing motion. You just press a button and it kills someone. So you can stab someone like 50 times really easily, especially if you had like 2 switchblades. You just... Cops show up. Why'd you have to stab him 50 times? I thought I was playing Tetris. Well, where the hell is the lower half of his body? I got like 50 lines. I don't know where they go. It's kind of irrelevant. So video games are violent, movies are violent. I like old movies, and I was thinking back in the saloon days, the chairmaker in town must have been the richest man in town, because every old movie I see with the saloon, there are like 50 chairs broken every night. People just bashing each other with chairs constantly. So you know he's doing just fine. He probably even has people that he hires to go into the saloon just to spread rumors. Somebody bellies up to the bar next to Big John. Hey, you see that crazy wild-eyed lunatic in the corner? You know, the one drinking the XXX jug? Looks like he's about to snap. I hate to tell you this, but I just overheard him saying that your wife's mounting hole reminds him of a spittoon. The chairs start flying everywhere. Meanwhile, that crafty chairmaker is just sitting in the corner like, it's gonna be a good month. I think you would think that the world is a lot more violent place than it actually is if you drove a slug bug. Because every car you'd pass would be people hitting each other, and you're like, the youth of America has gone awry somehow. So I'm not stopping in this town either. That's Hitler's last laugh, just spreading violence with his cars wherever they go. I'm a very paranoid person. That's why I like it when it's cloudy outside, because I know the satellites can't see me. But then, like on a real clear day, I'll go outside and I'll make an obscene gesture at the sky. And then immediately afterwards, I'm like, man, I hope they saw that. So I don't know what I want. Conflicted. I'm always afraid of how people are going to interpret my actions. That's why I think it'd be extremely awkward to finger a deaf girl. Because it'd be like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say Vanessa. I didn't know what I was doing. I just did it. But I remember a more innocent time. You remember that innocent time when you're a kid and you're just at the playground all by yourself on the swing set, just having a nice swing, all alone, and a stranger appears out of nowhere and he offers you candy. And you're like, ooh, I'd love to accept it, but I'm sorry. My mother told me I'm never supposed to accept candy from a... But, hey, do you mind if I give you a blowjob? Parents can try hard, but you have to be very specific with children. It's not always their fault, you know. Sometimes they don't get enough of the blame. You know, like when a baby gets strangled by its own umbilical cord, no one ever blames the baby. But who's to say, you know, because it's just sitting in a dark cave surrounded by nothingness for months and months. I'd think about offing myself, you know? But if you could go in and just explain to the baby, like, look, just wait it out. It's going to be fine. We've got something in store for you. We're going to push you through a tiny hole, and that's probably going to hurt a lot. But then we're going to grab you by the ankles, smack you on the ass, and cut part of your penis off. That sound good? Baby's like, oh, fuck that shit. Taking the easy way out. I'm sorry, that was kind of inappropriate of me. It's a little bit impolite. I care a great deal about etiquette, which is why I wish I still had an umbilical cord and placenta so that I could eat and talk at the same time without being gross. I'm not always polite myself. Like, I was on a date, and this girl just kept going on and on, just yapping, and I'm not a very good listener. She just kept just yapping about her dead brother. And apparently his corpse had been so mangled in the tractor accident that they had to have a closed casket despite the wishes of the family. And they wanted an open casket, they had to have a closed casket, and there was a whole she was blaming the funeral home about this. And just yap, yap, yap. Finally, I couldn't take it. I was like, Jesus Christ. Chew with your mouth closed. So sometimes your insistence on etiquette can be impolite. I didn't know that. Sometimes you just can't see what's right in front of you. Like, this little kid came up to me the other day, and he said, I can bend this spoon using just my mind. I was like, no, you can't. I did that when I was your age. And it's just a magic trick. It's not real. You can't actually do that. And he's like, yes, I can. You're just jealous. I bet you can't even bend it using your hands. I'm like, fucking give me that. Ha! He's like, see? Just my mind. Fucking bastard. I can never see what's inside something. Like, I always think that like inside every tumbleweed is a dead hamster in a hamster ball, just accumulating sticks and twigs, the splintered fragments of old saloon chairs. Okay, but so here's okay. So I'm always being tricked. I'm gonna give you an example of that, and then I'm gonna get the fuck off of here. I was just at a party at a friend's apartment on the 30th floor. He has a telescope. You can see into the neighboring apartments. So I'm at the party, and he's like, hey, Adam, take a look at this. There are people having sex over there. I'm like, oh, cool, because I'm a pervert, so I look. And sure enough, they're having sex. And the guy takes out a big, huge knife, and he starts stabbing away. And I'm like, fuck, somebody called the cops. There's a woman being butchered to death. And they all start laughing. I'm like, no, it's not a joke. That's really happening. What's wrong with you people? And my friend is like, Adam, calm down, calm down. Just look at yourself. Holds up a mirror. Big black ring around my eye. I felt so stupid. I was like, who put you up to this? Whose idea was this? And he's like, oh, it was Susan's. And I'm like, oh, God, Susan. Wait, hold on, who's Susan? He's like, it's that woman that Brian's stabbing. I'm like, well, I guess we're even then.